Snoop had a radio.
And he started getting calls and they was telling him that Tupac got shot and da-da-da-da-da.
What are you doing with the radio? He hear the gunshots. And basically somebody told him we got him or they got shot or all this.
As the Tupac M case unfolds, the complexity deepens with Suge Knight behind bars. Recently leaked audio recordings from his time in jail are creating ripples outside, shedding light on new information. In these recordings, Suge Knight reportedly implicates Snoop Dogg in 2Pac's M. Let's delve into the details to uncover the truth. Suge Knight has emerged with further insights into the intricacies of the 90s West Coast hip-hop scene, emphasizing his pivotal involvement in the Snoop Dogg M case. The recent episode of Collect Call with Suge Knight aired on November 9th via Dave May's Breakbeat Media, and it explores the former Death Row Records head's assertions that he played a crucial role in averting a potential life sentence for Snoop Dogg.
I'm disappointed in that. If it weren't for me, you'd still be in prison doing life.
Knight made a bold declaration stating, "If it weren't for me, Snoop would still be in prison doing life." As he revisited the circumstances leading up to the notorious trial. The incident dates back to 1993 when Snoop Dogg and his ex-bodyguard Malik found themselves confronting first and second-degree M charges connected to the death of Philip Little Smooth Voldemariam in Los Angeles. Detailing the legal strategy, Knight recalled a crucial moment. The lawyer said, "Well, the bodyguard has a 9mm, so we can't say he protected Snoop and shot the guy. Snoop had a .380. I said, we'll be effed if the bodyguard had a .380 and Snoop had a 9mm. And he got shot with a .380, right? He got shot with a 9mm. But since Snoop had the .380 and the bodyguard had a 9mm and he got shot with a .380, all the bodyguard gotta say is he was using .380 bullets in his 9mm. Knight further elaborated on his involvement, asserting that he invested a substantial sum of $6 million to resolve the situation. This encompassed addressing a blackmail attempt originating from Snoop's inner circle. Knight went to the extent of engaging with a private investigator to clarify the facts. According to Knight, this intervention ultimately resulted in the elimination of an alleged incriminating tape.
He recorded him. I heard it for myself. The guy wanted to play ball. He got some bread. He destroyed the tape. And that's one of the things.
Now, if we look back some years back, we already find incidents where many people have questioned Snoop's involvement in 2Pac's M. Renowned comedian Faison Love holds the belief that Snoop Dogg possessed the connections with the formidable Crips organization that could have quashed any plans to harm Tupac permanently. In an Instagram live session, the couple's retreat star expressed his perspective, stating, quote, "I always felt when Pac died, Snoop could have stopped the whole thing." Love emphasized that Snoop's affiliation with the Crips could have been instrumental in preventing the tragic events. According to him, Pac's association with Crips involved engaging in activities associated with gang culture, and conflicts, particularly with Snoop, triggered a chain of events leading to his untimely demise. He said, quote, "I mean, because like I said, Snoop was a Crip. Pac affiliates were Crips doing some gang-s. Some dumb gang-s, really." Love concluded by suggesting that if Tupac had not crossed paths with Snoop, the prolific Death Row Records artist might still be alive today. During the investigation into 2Pac's M, a high-ranking police officer involved in the case asserted that the K was a typical gangland revenge hit. Speaking anonymously, the officer dismissed various conspiracy theories surrounding the incident, stating, quote, "It was simple retaliation. You mess with one of ours, we will mess with one of yours." According to the LAPD source, the motive behind the '96 drive-by shooting in Las Vegas was rooted in gang dynamics, characterizing it as a gang retaliation M. Tupac's association with gun-wielding street gangs reportedly began when he signed with Suge Knight's label Death Row Records in the fall of '95. In the hours leading up to his M, Tupac was reportedly involved in a highly publicized altercation with Orlando Anderson, a member of the Crips, at the MGM Grand Casino. This event further underscored the rapper's connections to street gangs and set the stage for the tragic turn of events that followed. Earlier in the same year, tensions escalated when Orlando Anderson and his group stole a Death Row Records medallion from a member of Tupac's entourage, who was also a Mob Piru member. In response, Tupac was captured on camera participating in a brutal beatdown of Anderson. Tragically, hours later, Tupac was shot multiple times as he drove down the Las Vegas Strip with Suge Knight. He sustained 4 gunshot wounds in the chest, arm, and thigh, and succumbed to his injuries 6 days later. According to an insider within the LAPD, a former leader of the Crips later admitted that Tupac's death was an act of revenge from the earlier beating. in April 2017. During Tupac's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Snoop Dogg praised him as the, quote, greatest rapper of all time. Snoop characterized Tupac as a complex individual, embodying qualities of being hard-headed and intellectual, courageous and afraid, revolutionary, and in Snoop's words, don't forget it, F up, gangsta. Snoop Dogg, affectionately calling Tupac Shakur his brother, delivered a heartfelt induction speech for the late rapper at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at Barclays Center. However, the new Tupac biopic All Eyes on Me reveals that even their close bond faced significant strain during the notorious East Coast-West Coast rap feud of the 1990s. He also admitted that he was afraid that Tupac might attack him. A pivotal scene in the film, set just before Tupac's still unsolved M in Las Vegas in 1996, depicts both Tupac and Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight infuriated after hearing Snoop express love for their New York rivals, including the notorious B.I.G, Puff Daddy, and the Bad Boy Records crew in a radio interview.
Tell me how you feel about Puffy and Biggie.
Puff and Big, they my homeboys. It ain't like that. They didn't want it like that. We don't need to be doing that. It's all love.
While on a plane with Suge and Tupac shortly after the radio incident, Snoop sensed their anger toward him. The film portrays him discreetly hiding a small knife up his sleeve, anticipating possible retaliation from either of them. This moment underscores the intensity and complexity of relationships within the hip-hop scene during a turbulent period in the genre's history. Quote, you have to remember that Snoop was a Crip from Long Beach, California, so he would never be caught off guard, director Benny Boom tells The Post. Tupac was originally a Blood. Even when you've made it out of the street, those gang loyalties remain. For lesser individuals in the death row hierarchy, the betrayal could have been more serious, but Snoop got nothing more than a cold shoulder. At the time, he was top dog at death row and had convinced Knight to sign Tupac, who was in jail for a charge of assault in 1995, posting his bail of about $1.4 million in the process. The resulting All Eyes on Me, released in 1996, was the first hip-hop studio double album in history and sold millions. Quote, Snoop said to Suge, you think Death Row is a big label now? Wait until we get this guy, says Boom, and he was right. So these incidents led us to the rumor that Snoop might be afraid of Tupac's success and career, or thought Tupac as a powerful figure. That is why he allegedly has hands in Tupac's M. Now, Suge Knight is also confirming this rumor. Suge Knight strongly implies, albeit indirectly, that on the night Tupac was K'd in Las Vegas, Snoop Dogg was observed by Warren G in Los Angeles with a long-distance radio device resembling a cell phone. According to Suge's declaration, this device was used by Snoop to receive confirmation that Tupac had been shot and K'd. Notably, Suge asserts that no one from the Death Row team, whether part of security or otherwise, possessed similar radios, emphasizing the potential significance of this communication method in the context of Tupac's tragic death.
Snoop had a radio. Well, you have a radio if you was at the fight with us and you had a security detail. Now, not having a security detail, what are you doing with the radio?
The new information from Suge Knight introduces a different perspective on Warren G's role in saving Snoop Dogg from potential harm during the night Tupac was K'd. Suge now suggests that Warren's actions might not have been intentional protection, but rather an inadvertent revelation during Warren G's Drink Champs interview.
And he started getting calls and they was telling him that Tupac got shot and da-da-da-da-da.
According to Suge's account, it appears that Snoop Dogg was aware in advance that something was going to happen to Tupac. Suge claims that Snoop was in communication through a radio-like device, distinct from those used by the Death Row team. Allegedly, gunshots were heard over Snoop's radio, accompanied by a voice stating, quote, we got him. This raises questions about Snoop's knowledge and potential involvement in the events surrounding Tupac's tragic death, as per Suge Knight's perspective.
You hear the gunshots, and basically somebody told them we got him or they got shot or all this.
In April 2023 also, an audio recording featuring Suge Knight surfaced, casting doubt on the legitimacy of Snoop Dogg's ownership of Death Row Records. Knight, currently incarcerated, expressed concerns about how Snoop assumed control of the label, implying that the acquisition might be associated with dubious actions. In the recording released by TMZ, Knight suggested a connection between Snoop's stake in Death Row and an alleged criminal incident involving both Snoop and Michael Harry O. Harris. Harris, a convicted D kingpin, was an early financial supporter of Death Row Records.
If you look at it, they committed fraud. They committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong. They went in and a lawyer didn't show up, and they got a default judgment.
When asked about Snoop's ownership, Knight expressed skepticism about whether Snoop truly owns the label that rose to fame in the 1990s. Knight further alleged that Harris is involved in bankruptcy fraud, a disclosure he asserted his legal team unearthed just a week before the documented phone conversation. Quote, "Snoop has a partner, which is Michael Harris, right?" the 58-year-old told the outlet. "If you look at it, they committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong. They went in and the lawyer didn't show up and they got a default judgment. I settled the judgment. They turned around and said I didn't settle the judgment." Knight vehemently claims that the transaction involving death row was not just unlawful, but also a criminal act. He accuses Harris's wife and legal team of willingly engaging in fraudulent activities linked to the 1995 bankruptcy filing. Knight asserts that during the bankruptcy proceedings, they explicitly disassociated themselves from death row, and he contends that their attorney was fully cognizant of the deceit.
But they committed bankruptcy fraud, which we just found out for sure last week. When they filed bankruptcy in 95, they said it had nothing to do with death row or anything.
Persisting in his argument, Knight underscores the legal inconsistencies surrounding the sale and acquisition of death row records, particularly in the context of Harris's earlier bankruptcy filing. He passionately contends against bestowing ownership upon someone he perceives as having committed a serious offense against the black community by seeking to transfer it to white individuals. Knight staunchly believes in the inseparable connection between himself and death row, expressing resolute determination to reclaim the label he played a pivotal role in establishing. Quote, "You can't take a person who committed the worst crime of the century to take death row from black people to try to give it to white people," he said, "and think you're gonna turn around and reward and say he's gonna grab Snoop and he's gonna go get it back and have death row. It don't work like that. So if we're gonna talk about something, let's talk about it." Even after Snoop Dogg's declaration in February 2022 that he had secured ownership of Death Row Records through an agreement with MNRK Music Group, Knight steadfastly maintained his assertion regarding the label. He emphatically stated, quote, "I am Death Row, Suge Knight is Death Row," underscoring his unyielding resolve to preserve his association with the label that he played a pivotal role in establishing.
And you can't commit bankruptcy fraud and settle and do those types of things. So the same guy you see in the series, when you see all his deposition in prison.
In February 2022, it was announced that Snoop had acquired Death Row Records in a deal with MNRK Music Group. However, the terms of the deal were undisclosed. Snoop released a statement reacting to the news, which marked a full-circle moment in the rap legend's illustrious career. Quote, "I am thrilled and appreciative of the opportunity to acquire the iconic and culturally significant Death Row Records brand, which has immense untapped future value," shared the Gin and Juice rapper. "It feels good to have ownership of the label I was part of at the beginning of my career and as one of the founding members. This is an extremely meaningful moment for me. I would like to personally thank the teams at Blackstone, MNRK, and especially David Kestenbaum, who worked collaboratively with me over several months to make this exciting homecoming a reality. I'm looking forward to building the next chapter of Death Row Records." Nevertheless, Snoop has disclosed an alarming incident in which he narrowly escaped an attack orchestrated by individuals loyal to the then CEO of Death Row Records, Suge Knight. The account was shared by Snoop Dogg on Bet's No Limit Chronicles. The harrowing event transpired backstage at the No Limit Records I Got the Hookup Comedy Jam in Los Angeles in May of '98. Snoop, who had recently parted ways with Death Row for No Limit Records, faced a confrontation with associates of Knight due to comments he had made about Knight. When asked about Knight's remark that Snoop had transitioned from being a superstar to a, quote, "no-limit soldier," Snoop responded with a succinct, "nothing," adding, "He used to be a CEO, now he's just an inmate." Snoop directed a middle finger at the camera, presumably aimed at Knight. In the backstage confrontation, Snoop found himself encircled by associates of Knight demanding an apology. When Snoop's response failed to appease them, a physical altercation ensued. And despite managing to escape unharmed, the situation escalated into chaos. On stage, other No Limit rappers, including Master P, halted their performance to rush to Snoop's aid.
It's like my dog is on him now. You got your like, calm down, sit. Sit. Sit.
Amidst the chaos, with gunshots in the background of the playing song, the bewildered audience unwittingly added to the confusion, resulting in a riot. Despite successfully avoiding the attack, Snoop's night took an unforeseen twist. While attempting to navigate the tumult, Snoop inadvertently crossed paths with law enforcement who discovered illicit substances in his possession. He was subsequently handcuffed and placed in the back of a police car. He said, quote, "I got away. No cuts, no scars, no hits, no nothing," Snoop said. "But I run right into the law, with weed in my pocket and everything because I'm trying to save my life. They handcuffed me. They put me in the back of the police car." Snoop Dogg and his cousin, rapper Daz Dillinger, ended up in jail that night on charges of marijuana possession. To their astonishment, upon entering the jail, they encountered a familiar face, Ray J. Reflecting on the incident with laughter, Snoop shared, quote, "They take me and my cousin Daz to jail, and when we get in there, Ray J is in there. So we spend 4 hours in jail with Ray J. I'm not fabricating this, man. I'm not making this up." The astonishing aspect in all of these events is Snoop's involvement in the M case. In an interview on the Black Effect podcast network with Cam Capone News, McKinley Lee Jr., Snoop Dogg's former bodyguard, offered a comprehensive account of the 1993 M of a rival gang member that resulted in first-degree M charges for both Snoop and Lee.
"I do my job, and unfortunately somebody died, but I told the truth from the very beginning. And I don't think that people really knew that."
According to the account, following a tense confrontation with several known gang members outside Snoop Dogg's West Los Angeles apartment one August afternoon, Snoop and Lee found themselves crossing paths with the same individuals once again. Describing the tense situation, McKinley Lee Jr. recounted, "We heard some commotion downstairs and I'm thinking, I know Snoop didn't go outside without me." Lee quickly reacted, grabbing his gun as he headed downstairs to address the unfolding drama. As he descended the stairs, Snoop followed closely behind him. Lee continued, quote, "I stop at the end of the stairs and I see a guy leaning out of a car. He can't see me and he's just barking back and forth with one of the guys. I can't really remember exactly what he looked like, but I just saw the light-skinned face and then I saw a gun come out of the window. So at that time, there was no threat. Snoop was right there. It wasn't anything, it was just real quick. I take off and get Snoop upstairs." Thinking that the situation had de-escalated, Lee and Snoop got into a truck to proceed to the studio for further work on Snoop Dogg's solo debut, Doggy Style. However, upon realizing they had forgotten a recording device, Snoop, who was behind the wheel, made a U-turn to return to the apartment. While on their way back, they came across an individual standing in the middle of the street, signaling for them to stop. This person explained that the light-skinned man, who had brandished a gun, was diabetic and had forgotten to take his medicine.
After all of this, I realized that that may have prompted him to the things that he did and why he reached and all that. I don't know. I'm looking for answers myself.
They were ultimately charged with first-degree M and faced trial in 1995. During the proceedings, it was revealed that Jason London, a friend of the deceased Voldemariam, had hidden the gun to protect his fallen comrade. Defended by renowned lawyer Johnny Cochran, Snoop and Lee were acquitted on February 20th, 1996. Suge Knight persisted in recounting stories that underscored his participation in legal affairs and the music industry. He conveyed profound disappointment with Snoop Dogg's collaboration with Michael Harris, whom he accused of perpetrating fraud against him. Knight questioned Snoop's loyalty, stating, quote, "For me to put my own freedom at stake to make sure this guy doesn't go to prison. To go back and partner up with Michael Harris, who committed fraud against me, and say they're gonna try to take death row, you should have tried to get it back to its rightful owner. You didn't represent death row when you were on death row." Well, not only Suge, but many fans also believe that Snoop has something to do with 2Pac's case. One of them wrote, quote, "Pay attention to the role Snoop Dogg has played in movies. He was always sketch and played a snitch several times." Another one added, quote, "Snoop worth to be investigated." Snoop always appeared to not fully love or support Pac. He, however, showed serious, undeniable love to some of those who are suspects. Suge Knight's revelations are stirring considerable controversy among the rappers who were linked to various legal cases, including M charges, and benefited from Suge's assistance to avoid severe consequences. The disclosures are prompting questions not only about individual rappers' legal histories, but also casting a spotlight on the broader issues within the justice system itself. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.